It's almost here. Everybody was prepared for the previous eclipse, but most won't even see this one coming. Not all eclipses are created equal. Everyone thought they understood the last eclipse. They studied it, talked about it, prepared for it. But this one is different. Most won't even notice the warning signs until it's already too late. And here's the unsettling truth no one's saying. This solar eclipse is partial. And coincidentally, that detail is exactly what makes it even more transformative. Just because it's partial doesn't mean it's powerless, it means it's precise. Full eclipses are dramatic, they wipe out everything at once, but a partial eclipse? That's a surgeon's cut. It doesn't destroy, it selects. It hunts for the places you've ignored, the corners you've left in shadow, the blind spots you thought no one could see. This one strikes at a critical moment, arriving on the edge of the equinox, when the world is already shifting seasons, already rebalancing. That means the eclipse doesn't just pass over us. It collides with an existing turning point, doubling the pressure. You'll feel it in your body, in your sleep, in your clarity. Even the smallest interruption of the sun disturbs the natural rhythms we rely on. And during this eclipse, those disturbances ripple outward like aftershocks. And this is why it's crucial for you to be prepared. This isn't an energy you can coast through blindly. If you enter it scattered, drained, or unaligned, the ripple will hit you harder. But if you take the right steps before it arrives, the same energy that unsettles others will strengthen you instead. There are certain things you must do before this eclipse takes place, and if you don't, the choice will be made for you. Everyone talks about eclipses as portals of manifestation. Set your intentions, write your lists, dream big. That's the usual message. And while that's okay, there's more to it. You should also focus on clearing out. This eclipse doesn't just want your vision board, it also wants your dead weight gone. If you're walking into it still tangled with toxic people, stuck in draining routines, or holding on to situations that already expired, the eclipse will strip them away for you. And when it does, it won't ask permission. That's why the days before are so critical. This is your chance to be intentional about what gets cut. Manifestation only works when the ground has been cleared. If you plant seeds in a garden full of weeds, you don't grow dreams, you grow chaos. So treat these next few days as a cleanse, not a build. Ask yourself, what cords am I still tied to that don't serve me? Who is still in my circle that shouldn't be? Which habits are silently draining my strength? Delete them before the eclipse does it for you, because if you wait, you won't control how the removal happens. And here's the catch. Sometimes what you let go of isn't toxic at all. Sometimes it's something you've simply outgrown, and the eclipse makes sure you face that. Your focus, your energy, and your future plans will be targeted. Solar eclipses have a pattern. They don't just darken the sky, they disorient your inner compass. They push you to second-guess yourself in the moments you need clarity most. And if you're not prepared, you'll confuse an eclipse test for a personal failure. First comes your focus. You'll feel pulled in 10 directions at once. You'll open your day, knowing what matters, then end it wondering why you wasted time on the wrong things. The eclipse shadow scatters your attention, and if you don't anchor it, you'll chase distractions instead of priorities. Next is your energy. Just when you want momentum, motivation dips. You'll feel tired for no clear reason, or restless but unable to channel it. It's the eclipse's way of forcing you to pause, but if you resist, it can feel like burnout. And then, your plans. The eclipse shakes your future. You'll find yourself questioning where you're headed, who you're headed there with, and whether you've been walking in circles. relationships, careers, even personal goals, all of it comes under the shadow's review. Eclipses don't destroy your path, they test your grip on it. If you don't stabilize these three areas now, the eclipse will rearrange them for you. And when the cosmos rearranges your life, it rarely does it gently. But here's what no one tells you. Sometimes the eclipse doesn't target you at all. It targets someone close to you. Have you noticed a single thought echoing in your mind, almost like it's on repeat? Not a passing worry, not a random idea, but one specific thought circling back again and again. That isn't random. Before an eclipse, this looping thought is a signal. It's your soul flashing a warning light, pointing at something unresolved or about to shift. Think about it. Why would the same thought keep returning, no matter how many times you try to push it away? Why does it show up at the strangest times, while you're driving, brushing your teeth, or trying to fall asleep? That repetition is pressure building, preparing to crack open when the eclipse shadow hits. Repetition is revelation. What the mind circles, the soul demands you face. Sometimes that looping thought is about a person. Maybe someone you haven't spoken to in years suddenly keeps crossing your mind. Other times, it's about a decision, an unfinished dream, or a fear you never fully admitted to yourself. The eclipse doesn't create these loops, it amplifies them, pulling them out of the shadows so they can't be ignored. This is why many people feel restless or even anxious in the days leading up to an eclipse. It's not the eclipse causing random discomfort, it's your own unfinished business circling louder, forcing you to listen. The mistake most people make is dismissing it as overthinking. But what feels like overthinking is often the soul screaming, "This is where the shift is coming." The looping thought is rarely about what it seems on the surface. If you keep obsessing about money, maybe it's not really about finances, but about safety and control. If you keep thinking of someone from the past, maybe it's not about them, but about the part of yourself you lost in that chapter. The thought is the messenger, not the route. The eclipse doesn't care if you're ready or not. If you ignore the signal, it will bring the shift anyway, only harder, only louder. But if you recognize the looping thought for what it is, you can align yourself with the change instead of being blindsided by it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The loop is the map. The question is whether you'll read it before the shadow arrives. During a solar eclipse, the boundaries that normally protect us thin out. It's like the veil between your inner world and the outside world becomes paper thin. Suddenly, emotions that aren't yours feel like they belong to you. You walk into a room and you're instantly weighed down by the heaviness of someone else's mood. Or worse, you feel a strange pull from energies you can't even name. An eclipse doesn't just shift the sky, it opens the gates. This thinning of boundaries isn't just poetic talk. People genuinely report feeling more sensitive, more drained, more reactive in the days surrounding an eclipse. And it makes sense. When the sun and moon align in such a rare way, the natural filters we rely on weaken. What usually bounces off your energy field slips through. That's why shielding your energy isn't optional during this time. It's survival. If you don't, you'll find yourself carrying weight that was never yours to hold. Suddenly, you're angry for no reason, exhausted after simple conversations, or haunted by feelings that don't even belong to you. But shielding doesn't have to mean building a wall. It means awareness. Who are you spending time with in these days leading up to the eclipse? What environments are you walking into without thinking twice? What invisible influences are you letting sit in your space unchecked? The eclipse amplifies everything, which means careless exposure now hits harder than usual. Think of your energy like a house with open doors. On a normal day, a breeze might drift in. During an eclipse, it's not just a breeze, it's a storm. And storms don't ask permission to enter. So how do you shield? By being deliberate. By choosing who and what gets access. By recognizing when the heaviness you're carrying isn't yours, and refusing to let it set up camp in your mind. Shielding isn't paranoia, it's respect for your own field. And here's the truth. If you don't protect your energy, the eclipse will use it as a testing ground. It will show you where your boundaries leak, where you're too open, and where you're too careless with your own space. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. Because if you don't shield yourself now, you may discover too late that the eclipse already made you a vessel for something you never invited in. Before an eclipse, the nights start to feel different. Sleep is no longer just rest, it becomes a stage. Dreams grow sharper, louder, harder to ignore. Some are so vivid that you wake up shaken, carrying their weight long after morning light. Others are bizarre, filled with symbols you can't immediately make sense of. But they're not random. They're the language of the subconscious, pushing through while the veil thins. Dreams are the soul's way of speaking when the mind is too distracted to listen. In the days leading up to this eclipse, your dreams act as a purge. They pull unresolved emotions, buried fears, and hidden desires out of storage, playing them out in symbolic form. That's why so many people feel both drained and strangely relieved after a powerful dream during this window. It's the psyche clearing its backlog before the eclipse hits. Think of it as a spiritual detox happening in your sleep. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all dreams are purges. Some carry guidance. They plant seeds that only make sense later, after the eclipse shifts your perspective. A strange symbol, a repeated image, even a random conversation with someone in a dream. It might feel meaningless now, but often, after the eclipse, the puzzle pieces align and the message is revealed. This is why dreams around eclipses feel different from ordinary ones. They have a weight to them, as if they're stitched into something larger. They carry a frequency that follows you into waking life. Many report déjà vu after eclipses, experiencing something in real life that they first saw in a dream days earlier. That isn't coincidence. That's alignment. And the truth is, not all of these dreams will be comfortable. Some will confront you with versions of yourself you'd rather not see. Others may bring back faces from the past you thought you'd erased. But that discomfort is the point. The eclipse magnifies what's unfinished, and dreams are its chosen messengers. Dreams before an eclipse are like letters sealed in code. You may not understand them immediately, but their meaning will arrive right on time. So pay attention, write them down, track the symbols, even if they make no sense in the moment. Because later, after the eclipse shadow has passed, you may realize your dreams had already been preparing you for the exact changes about to unfold. And here's the deeper layer. Some of these dreams aren't just yours. The thinning veil means you might pick up collective signals, visions tied to humanity as a whole, not just your personal path. That's why some dreams during eclipses feel far bigger than your life, carrying a sense of weight you can't quite explain. The eclipse speaks through dreams because they bypass logic, bypass denial, and cut straight to the truth. And once you've received that truth, no matter how cryptic, it starts to shape the choices you make when you wake. If you keep doing this one thing every day, you're basically inviting the eclipse to knock you down. And what is it? Reaching for your phone the second you wake up. It seems harmless. It feels automatic. But right now, in the days before this eclipse, it's one of the most spiritually destructive habits you can fall into. Think about it. The first thing you do each morning sets the tone for your entire day. If you wake up and instantly flood your mind with notifications, news, messages, and endless scrolling, what are you telling your spirit? You're declaring that the noise of the world is more important than your inner voice. You're handing over your clarity before you've even had a chance to breathe. Attention is currency. Whatever you spend it on first owns your day. During ordinary times, this habit already drains focus. But under the energy of a solar eclipse, it becomes amplified. The eclipse takes that first moment's signal and magnifies it. If your signal is distraction, the eclipse will strip away even more of your internal compass. The result? Confusion, overwhelm, a strange disorientation that makes you feel like you're living someone else's life instead of your own. And here's the part most people don't realize. The eclipse doesn't create the chaos out of nowhere. It responds to the choices you make. When you start your day scrolling, you're aligning yourself with external control instead of internal truth. The eclipse simply accelerates that pattern until you can't ignore it anymore. Start your day in silence or risk losing the signal of your soul. This isn't about being anti-technology. It's about reclaiming the sacred first minutes of your morning. Just a few moments of stillness, sitting with your breath, noticing your thoughts, or simply listening to the quiet is enough to anchor your spirit before the eclipse energy hits. Think of it like locking your doors before a storm. It doesn't stop the storm, but it keeps your house standing. So, if you want to make it through this eclipse with clarity intact, don't give your first breath of the day to the screen. Not until the 22nd has passed. Guard your mornings, because those first moments decide whether the eclipse strips away your guidance or sharpens it. People think the most powerful thing they can do before an eclipse is act. Write, plan, manifest, hustle, meditate harder, do more. But here's the truth most won't tell you. Eclipses are not about productivity. They are about alignment. They reveal alignment. This September 21st eclipse isn't asking you to force your way into a new chapter. It's asking you to clear enough space for the new chapter to arrive on its own. And that means stillness. That means resting your nervous system, letting the noise die down, and giving your soul a chance to breathe. Think about it. Alignment can't happen when you're busy filling every silence. The deepest revelations always rise in the pauses, not in the chaos. If you're constantly moving, the eclipse has no room to bring in clarity, and instead, it will strip away whatever is making you restless until you have no choice but to stop. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the place where truth finally speaks. Honoring stillness doesn't mean abandoning your life. It means consciously creating pockets of quiet where the eclipse energy can work with you instead of against you. Take a walk without your headphones. Sit in your room without reaching for a distraction. Even lying down and breathing deeply can be more transformative than trying to force yourself into rituals or routines that feel heavy. This eclipse is alignment at its core. The sun, the moon, the earth, three massive bodies locking into perfect precision. That alignment is mirrored in you if you allow it. But here's the catch. If you fill the silence with endless motion, the alignment turns into a clash. If you embrace the stillness, the alignment turns into revelation. And that's why the greatest preparation before this eclipse isn't writing another affirmation or setting another goal. It's pausing. It's trusting that clarity will emerge not because you forced it, but because you finally made space for it to arrive. There's a reason ancient traditions treated eclipses with mystery and secrecy. What happens in the eclipse window is not meant for everyone's ears, because outside voices can distort what is still fragile, raw, and forming inside you. Not everything that grows in the dark is meant to be exposed to the light immediately. When you share your plans too soon, you don't just reveal them, you hand them over. You open them up to other people's doubts, projections, or even their silent envy. And during an eclipse, when energy is already volatile and rearranging, those outside projections can scatter the clarity you've just begun to receive. Think about how many times you've told someone about an idea or decision you were excited about, only to feel your excitement drain once their opinions or skepticism slipped in. That's exactly what this eclipse will magnify if you're not careful. This is why it's not just about making changes now, it's about protecting those changes from interference. Silence isn't secrecy. Silence is protection. The September 21st eclipse is what I call a recalibration eclipse. It's rearranging the internal compass, not the external world. And when something is recalibrating, it needs to be stable. Imagine trying to balance a scale while people keep tossing weights onto it. That's what happens when you let the outside world in on your private transformations too early. But here's the hidden layer. It's not just the outside voices you need to guard against. It's also the temptation to speak your plans out loud before they've matured. The act of constantly talking about what you're going to do tricks the mind into believing it's already been done. That false sense of progress weakens your drive and leaves your vision vulnerable. And under eclipse skies, that weakness is exposed instantly. The truth is, the eclipse doesn't just amplify energy, it tests it. If your plans are fragile, if your vision isn't ready, if you speak it too soon, the eclipse will unravel it before it can even take root. That's why the most powerful transformations often happen quietly, with no witnesses, until they're too strong to be undone. Think of a seed underground. No one sees it, no one praises it, no one knows what's happening, but in that darkness, in that hidden silence, the seed is drawing power. Only when it's ready does it break the surface, unstoppable. That's exactly how your plans must be treated before and during this eclipse. Guard your plans like they're sacred. Let them breathe in silence. Trust that when the time is right, they will be strong enough to withstand the noise, opinions, and energy of others. But right now, they're seedlings, and seedlings don't grow when they're constantly being pulled out of the soil to be shown off. What is whispered to the eclipse must stay between you and the shadow until it blooms. So in these days before and after the eclipse, resist the urge to over-explain, to announce, to prove. Not because you don't believe in yourself, but because belief becomes power when it is cultivated in silence. The less you say now, the more your actions will speak later. There is a strange law that seems to activate around eclipses. Words stop being just sound, and they start carrying weight. It's as if every syllable becomes stamped into the energy of the moment, echoing longer and reaching further than usual. That's why the days leading up to an eclipse are not the time for careless talk. What slips out of your mouth now doesn't just vanish, it reverberates, it attaches, it lingers. During an eclipse window, your voice becomes a spiritual command line. Think of it like this: every word you release is a signal. Some signals call in clarity, some call in chaos. And in the heightened atmosphere before the September 21st eclipse, those signals will be magnified. Words of healing, truth, and alignment, they'll carry like prayers. Words of anger, gossip, or doubt, they'll ripple out like poison, returning in ways you may not expect. This is why ancient mystics treated speech as a sacred tool, because they understood it shapes reality, not just describes it. And under eclipsed skies, that shaping power is on overdrive. What you whisper today could be what you're forced to live with tomorrow. But here's the part that no one tells you. The danger isn't only in what you speak to others, it's also in what you speak to yourself. The thoughts you mutter under your breath, the self-criticisms you let slip in moments of weakness, the casual insults you throw at your own reflection, the eclipse takes those too and stamps them into your energy field. You may think it's just venting, but in this window, your words can become chains you'll wear long after the shadow has passed. And the reverse is also true. Words of love, words of trust, words of courage whispered even when no one is listening, those too will echo back, weaving protection and alignment into your path. The eclipse amplifies everything, which means even the smallest intentional word can carry the force of a blessing. You don't have to be silent, but you must be sacred with your speech. So here's the challenge. Before the eclipse, measure your words. Let every sentence run through a filter. Ask, is this healing? Is this true? Is this necessary? If not, let it stay unspoken. Not because silence is safer, but because silence is sometimes the only way to avoid binding yourself to energies you don't want following you into the eclipse shadow. And remember this, words are doors. Every time you speak, you open a doorway and invite something in. Some words open doors to wisdom, to peace, to strength. Others open doors to confusion, conflict, and regret. During this eclipse, when the boundaries between worlds thin, those doors swing wider than usual. Choose carefully which ones you unlock. You don't always need to announce, defend, or explain. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do with your voice is reserve it for what matters most. The eclipse will take every careless phrase and amplify it, but it will also take every intentional word and anchor it into your reality. So be deliberate. Speak like your words are spells, because during this eclipse window, they are. And once the shadow passes, you'll either be walking through the doors you consciously opened or trapped behind the ones you accidentally left ajar. When the eclipse window finally arrives, people rush to do rituals, burn candles, set intentions, and call in visions. But here's the truth almost no one admits. The most powerful thing you can do right before an eclipse is nothing at all. Not manifesting, not visualizing, not asking, just silence. If you want the eclipse to give you something, let it find you empty. This moment isn't about showing the universe how hard you can push your will. It's about clearing the stage so the eclipse can actually deliver what's meant for you. Because when you're filling the space with demands and desires, you're drowning out the subtle messages that are trying to reach you. So what should you do? Be alone. Be still. Be quiet. That's it. Even if it's just 5 minutes before the eclipse shadows cross, put the phone away, mute the music, let the conversation stop. Create a container of absolute stillness around yourself. In that stillness, you're no longer the speaker. You're the receiver. You're saying to the cosmos, I am listening. And when you signal that, the eclipse has a way of aligning things you didn't even know you needed. The answers don't come in fireworks, they come in whispers, and whispers can only be heard in silence. Think about it. The most profound shifts in your life rarely came when you were busy shouting your intentions. They came in those sudden moments of clarity when everything got quiet and the truth simply arrived. That's exactly the kind of space the eclipse wants you to create. But here's what most people overlook. The silence isn't just for you, it's also a shield. In those few minutes, when the veil thins and energies are in flux, silence becomes armor. Every word you don't say is a doorway you keep closed. Every distraction you refuse is a shadow you refuse to invite in. Stillness doesn't just prepare you, it protects you. And it's not just about the silence on the outside. It's about the silence inside. The eclipse asks you to pause the endless inner monologue, the looping arguments, the constant replay of fears. When you soften that noise, you create an opening where the eclipse can plant something new, a seed of truth, an image of direction, a flash of insight that shifts your course forever. Some traditions even believed that the moments just before an eclipse were a sacred test. Could you hold still enough to notice the invisible? Could you resist the urge to fill the silence and simply wait? Because those who rushed, those who demanded, those who panicked often walked away with nothing but more confusion. But those who held themselves in quiet reverence came away marked, shifted, realigned, awakened in ways they could not yet explain. So in those final minutes before the shadow passes overhead, honor the silence like a ritual in itself. Let your body relax, let your breath slow down, let the chatter fall away. Trust that what is meant to reach you will only find you if you stop running and finally allow yourself to stand still. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.